Previously on My Inner Life.
Shut your fucking mouth! No problem, Charlie. Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
We now return to My Inner Life. The night passed quickly, and the sun's first rays were rising over the horizon as I was saddling my horse and making my final preparations for my departure with Link and Dalamar. After we all made the final preparations, Link and I mounted our horses and ready to depart. Dalamar emerged from the castle and joined us at the front gate. I checked one last time to make sure my bow, quiver, and phoenix circles were secure before turning my attention to the griffin. Dalamar looked at us sternly, his wings flexed against the gentle blowing wind. "Are you ready, my friends?" Dalamar questioned. "As ready as ever," Link returned as he eagerly waited to leave. I just nodded. "Well then, let us get moving. We should try to reach the Black Mountains before sundown." Turning my horse around, I started to follow behind Link when Zelda called to us. "Please be careful. May the goddesses protect you on your journey and provide your safe return home." We looked back at Zelda one last time before moving out. "Thank you, milady. I appreciate all you've done for me," Dalamar said, his gaze softened upon hers. "Don't worry about Link and I. We'll be fine. I'm sure we will return home safely. Please take good care of our son."
"That is not Zelda's job! That is yours!"
I added as a smile of reassurance crossed my face. "Now, my friends, we must move on. Time is of the essence," Dalamar retorted. Nodding in agreement, I resumed following behind Link, leaving the sanctuary of Hyrule behind. The sun was high and up in the heat, treacherous as we made our way across the vast black desert. We had been traveling for about 4 hours and I was already tired from sitting in my saddle. Thick sweat beaded my face as my parched mouth cried for water. I reached into my saddlebags and pulled out my water skin. Raising it to my dried lips, I took a long gulp before replacing the cap and returning it to my saddlebags. The heat was so unbearable that it was causing shapes of false objects to form in the desert, and even the heat wave that the desert was producing caused the images of Link and Dalamar to look distant and warped. Though we pressed on, pushed our very horses to the limit, their mouths gaped open, their tongues dry from the hot desert air. The minutes that we spent in that damn desert of death seemed like hours when we finally reached a miracle by the goddesses loomed just ahead. After what seemed like an endless push through that treacherous desert, we finally came to the end and emerged near a vast rushing river. "This is the Snake River," Dalamar said as his crystal eyes scanned the bank on the other side. "The river is too fast and deep to cross on foot. We'll have to build up a raft large enough to ferry the horses on." Scanning the area surrounding the river, I noticed a large thicket of trees up the river. "There's a large amount of foliage just a short way up the river. We can use these to build a raft." Walking up beside me, Dalamar scanned the way ahead. "I see no signs of danger that way, so let's get a move on." We pressed up the river and into the thick foliage. There we proceeded to make a makeshift raft, using vines found along the trees to hold together. After we pushed down the bank, we loaded on the horses, then Link and I went on, followed by Dalamar. Taking a long pole made of wood, Link steered us along the river's swift current, taking heed to watch for rocks lying under the river's white caps. Slowly but surely we made our way across and onto the other side. From there we mounted and headed for Dragon Mount. The sky was setting off tones of deep pink and lavender. The sun started to set as we neared Dragon Mount. I watched in awe as the dragon-shaped mountain appeared in the distance. Just then Dalamar turned and looked back at us. "We must make haste. The sun has already started to set. This is a bad area to be in after nightfall. We must press on at a faster pace," Dalamar said with worry. "But Dalamar, the horses," I started to say. "The horses what?" Dalamar cut in. "They need rest. Look at them. They're exhausted." "I have to agree with my wife, Dalamar. The horses haven't had any rest since we left Hyrule." "The only problem is, Lord Ariakis' knights patrol this area at night. If we don't press on past Dragon Mount, we might be found by the Dark Knights, and trust me, you don't want to get captured by them. They have been known to be ruthless and even as far as to kill in blood for glory," Dalamar said shakily, his eyes glaring over at us. "I fought worse than that. How can these Dark Knights amount to what Ganondorf was?" Link said stoutly as he shifted in his saddle. "Listen, hero, you don't understand these Dark Knights like I do. My people have been fighting them for centuries, and trust me, they're more ruthless than you think they are." Just then I spotted something up ahead. By the goddesses, what the hell is that up there? I said as I pointed my finger skyward. Dalamar raised his head and then cried out, "Draconians! We must get the hell out of here before we're spotted!" Dalamar screeched, taking off at full throttle. Booting my horse in the legs, "Stop doing that, you bitch!" The animal took off at full speed behind Link. We pushed on at a full gallop, winding around the small boulders lining the dirt road. I lowered my head down till my chin was against my horse's tattered mane, the wind whipping the horse's mane against my face as we rode. Dragon Mount slowly loomed over us as we came closer. Eerie tendrils of black smoke swelled around it, making it look like an evil creature waiting to attack. "Hurry! Hurry! We must reach the safety of Dragon Mount!" Wait, huh? How is Dragon Mount the safe place? Ugh! Dalamar cried again, his voice warped over the howling wind. We rode hard and fast.
Flynn had his new hose. It was long. It was strong.
The hooves of our galloping horses kicked up dirt and dust behind them as the shadows of the overhead creatures threatened to close in around us. The eerie screech of the massive dragons rang through my ears as they came closer. The beating of their massive leathery wings stirred up dust around us. I looked up and saw that they were closing in on us. The dragon's huge black talons were outstretched, its angry yellow eyes piercing deep into mine. "Dalamar, we've been spotted! They're closing in on us!" I cried over the howling wind, my eyes wide with fear. "Hurry! We're almost there!" Dalamar screeched. "We must reach Dragon Mount before they do." I booted my horse again, forcing her to go as fast as possible. I'm surprised that horse hasn't fucking dropped dead by this point. Her eyes wide with fear as the death screeches of the dragons came closer. Dragon Mount was just ahead. Just a few feet further, we came upon it. The black swells of smoke rose around us as we moved to the base of the gigantic rock formation. Pulling my horse to a skidding stop and somehow not dying, I dismounted and moved alongside Link and Dalamar while guiding my horse along the reins. "There's a cave just big enough on the other side. We must hurry and take sanctuary in it before the Draconians come for us," Dalamar urged. His crystal blue eyes— oh, for God's sake, stop describing the goddamn eyes. This is getting so fucking irritating. I can't. We slowly made our way around the small mountain under the cover of the thick smoke that wrapped around it, its eeriness causing shivers to run down my spine. We listened as the dead silence was broken by the cries of dragons as they landed just meters from where we were hiding, causing the horses to buck and neigh, their eyes wide with fear. "Keep the horses quiet! The dragons will hear them!" Dalamar growled. Link and I quieted our horses with a few moving ever so slightly as we made our way to the other side. Just then Dalamar caught sight of what type of dragons were hunting us. "Oh, by the goddesses, those are blue dragons, the most dangerous of all dragons. Their eyes can see the slightest movement, and they can smell almost anything. We must remain cautious. They're searching for us, and if we move too fast, they'll spot us for sure," Dalamar whispered as he forced his back up against the smooth surface of Dragon Mount. As we moved, I watched as the two dragons' piercing yellow eyes scanned the base of the mountain for us, their jaws gaping open, exposing their long fangs against the blackness. Just looking at those yellow eyes full of bloodlust made my body quiver in fear as their long fangs looked as if they would tear a man in half. Then I noticed something move against the back of one of the dragons. As I narrowed my eyes, I was able to make out a figure in black armor lined with skulls of death, its helm shaped like skull with horns, and a dark blue cape whipped wildly around the figure's shoulders. In the figure's hand was a long sword with the emblem of a black lily at the base of its blade, its deadly surface reflecting against the dim light of the moon. "Oh no, by the goddesses! Those must be the dark knights Dalamar told us about," I whispered to myself, eyeing the dark figure on the dragon's back. "If they are as deadly as Dalamar says, then we must escape at all costs." I pushed up closer against Link, taking his hand in mine and squeezing it tightly. "Don't worry, my love. We'll be all right," Link reassured smoothly, his hand squeezing mine back. "We won't be if we don't hurry. The cave's just up ahead," Dalamar retorted quietly, his beak brushing against the thick smoke. Just before we made it to the cave entrance, one of the dragons stepped out just a few feet from it, its yellow eyes staring directly down in the direction where we were hiding. Its nostrils flared as it smelled the air, its mouth gaping wide. Thick saliva dripped from its fangs. "Oh no, by the fires of hell, I think they're onto us!" Dalamar cursed, color draining from his eyes. "It must smell the horses. Horse meat is dragon's favorite food." "Then what the hell do you suppose we're going to do?" Link growled, his face twisting into a scowl. "We have no choice but to break for it. Hopefully we can outrun them." Though the thoughts of running straight into a dragon's claws didn't make Dalamar rest any easier. Wait, where the hell did that line come from? Link and I mounted our horses and waited for Dalamar's signal. On my signal, take off and break left. Hopefully we can get ahead of them before they notice we've left. "Now go!" Dalamar cried as he took off at full throttle, braking just left of the dragon's right side, booting my horse in the legs. The animal took off at full speed behind Link's stallion, following the same path Dalamar took. As we broke north towards the Black Mountains, I heard shouting from behind them.
There they go! After them! They have a damn griffin with them! We must capture it!
Came some of the cries as they noticed us running away. The sound of heavy beating wings filled the air as a massive blue dragon took flight, their cries breaking the dead silence of night. I hunched down against my horse's neck, its ragged mane whipped against my face as we pushed to reach the sanctuary of the Black Mountains. "Hurry! Push faster! They're gaining on us!" Dalamar shouted. As I looked up, I saw one of the massive beasts closing in on us. It started dipping into a dive, its mouth gaping wide. "Oh my god, it's this! Link, one of them is almost on top of us!" I screamed as I heard the massive beating wings just overhead. Then, out of nowhere, the other blue dragon dropped down in front of us, its mouth opened wide as it blocked our path. The horses skidded to a halt, neighed and bucked, almost throwing Link and I off their backs. Then the other dragon landed behind us. Its heavy beating wings kicked up dust and sand around it. "Holy shit, we're trapped!" Dalamar cried. His eyes turned to a ghostly white. "How right you are.
You will not escape the dark nights of Ariakas,"
sneered one of the figures loomed on the dragon in front of us.
"Surrender quietly. We just might go easy on you,"
the other sneered. I watched as Link pulled the Master Sword out of its sheath. "I will not surrender to the likes of you," Link returned angrily, pointing directly at the knight in front of us. "Then prepare to die," the knight sneered as he dismounted off the dragon in front of us, unsheathing his sword. Wow, what a dumbass. He has a dragon and yet he decides to take them on foot. These guys really are as dumb as the dragon riders from Ultima 9. I unfastened my phoenix circles from my waist and prepared for battle. I heard a clanking sound of weapons clash behind me as I confronted the other one. "Dalamar, quickly run behind that rock to my right. I will handle this one," I yelled to the griffin, my eyes resting on the knight still on dragonback. I raised my weapons up in front of me and grinned. "Now, dark beast, come and get me!" Pulling the blue closer, I watched as the Dark Knight unsheathed his massive sword and pointed it directly at me.
"Then die, wench!"
The knight returned angrily as the blue danced closer.
"You keep using the horde. I do not think it means what you think it means."
I backed up and faced the knight head on, my weapons raised in defense. He pulled the blue even closer. Is he still on the dragon or not? The breath of its gaping mouth caused me to gag, its deadly yellow eyes staring at me with bloodlust. But I held my ground and slashed out my weapons. My phoenix circle connected, ripping a gash along the beast's left nostril. Crimson red sputtered into the air, drenching my once pink dress.
You fucking what? Dress in the... Why? Just... Why must you be wearing a fucking dress while on an adventure?
The dragon moved in again. Its deadly claws lashed out, catching my blood-soaked dress, ripping it. I swung again with my weapons, only to be met with the clank of a sword against them. The knight pushed his sword down against mine, the tip nearing my throat. Pulling back suddenly, I thrust my weapon forward again, the round blades connecting with the Dark Knight's wrists, crimson sweeping out from under his gauntlet hand. He screamed in fury, his sword glaring against the moonlight as he struck it down against my phoenix circles again, causing a shower of sparks to rain from the air. We sparred for a few minutes before the blue lashed his tail out, ramming it into my legs, causing me to go crashing to the ground, and you are gonna fucking miscarry. Just, there is no way about it now. I hate you. I hate you so fucking much. No matter how much I may pity the real person, this character might just be one of the worst protagonists out of all the fan fictions I've read so far. I staggered dizzily, trying to get up, only to be met by the tip of a sword in my face. I looked up and saw the blues with their riders looming over me. Link had been captured.
Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me!
Just... Ugh. No. No, you don't love Link, and he's not one of your favorite characters anymore. Just, I don't believe you. I don't believe you any longer. Not even a tiny goddamn bit. He is a boy toy to you and nothing more. Admit it, and I will be less angry. But you're not going to, are you? You're too fucking selfish for that. Dalamar was nowhere in sight. Where's the griffin? One of the dragon riders asked. Silence. Answer me, wench! He yelled, swiping the sword across my cheek, causing small rivers of blood to seep from it. I will never tell you, you dark bastards, I sneered, as I did a sudden roll, killing the baby, and moved to the left just before one of the other dragon's mouths struck. I ran a few meters into the nearby cannon, then backed up against the stone wall and watched as the two blues closed in on me, their riders raising spears ready to strike. At that moment, I took the opportunity to strike. Raising my hands into the air, I proceeded to call upon the elements. Kamas mu matar, I cried skywardly as my hands begun to glow a bright red, fire flaming on the tips of my fingers. With a sudden flash, the moon turned a blood red as fire shot down from the sky, striking down the blues in a raging fury, causing them to scream in pain as the hellish blaze singed their scaled skin. With the distraction in place, I took the opportunity to make my final strike. Dalamar, now! Grab Link off that damn beast's back! I screamed as I held the dragon back behind a wall of fire. With a loud cry, the snowy white griffin took flight from behind a nearby boulder and rose skyward, his wings beating heavily as he dipped in his flight, diving just above the blue's back, grabbing Link in his talons. Rising swiftly back in the air, Dalamar moved out of range, allowing me to make my final attack. I focused my mind and called upon the ancient powers of the Silver Lights. I focused all my energy and concentrated into one energy attack, then unleashed it, sending it down upon them in a massive explosion, thrusting the blues and their riders back into the pits of hell. After the smoke cleared, I found Dalamar had crash-landed about 20 meters from where the dragons once stood. I ran over to him as the griffin slowly opened his crystal blue eyes halfway. Did you do it, my friend? Nodding, tears begun to well in my eyes as I watched his falter. Dalamar, don't you dare leave me! I cried as my hands grabbed him down on the feathers around his neck. I am fine, my lady. Just tired. Dalamar replied, his voice raspy and shuddered. Where's Link, Dalamar? What did you do to him? I cried again, yanking on his white feathers. Calm down, lass. He's right next to me on my other side. He's fine, but unconscious, Dalamar whispered, just before unconsciousness claimed him as well. I had spent nearly that entire night by a small fire at the base of the canyon we ran into, caring for Link and Dalamar as they lay there unconscious. My whole body ached. No fucking shit, you pregnant dumbass! Even my eyes ached from them staying open, but I had to remain awake in case any more dragons entered the skies from above. I just sat there, poked at the fire with a stick when I suddenly heard a moan. I looked over and saw Link was beginning to come around. I quickly got to my feet and ran over beside him. Kneeling down next to him, I looked into his half-open eyes, the slight blue glittering under the moonlight. Oh my goddesses, you're awake, I said softly as I took Link's gloved hand into mine. He slowly raised his other hand and gently placed it against my cheek. Are you okay, my beloved? He said in a half-whisper. I raised my other hand and rested it against his. The warmth of his soothing fingers caressed my cheek as I rubbed my cheek against them. Yes, I'm fine, my love. But you need to get some rest. You were badly beaten and have a nasty bruise on your forehead, I returned lovingly, whispered softly against his gentle fingers. Where's Dalamar? Is he all right? Link said as his eyes shifted slightly. He's here and he's fine, but still unconscious. Now, shush. You need to sleep. Rest easy, my love. I will care for both of you while you sleep. While you're fucking... Well, okay, you're definitely not pregnant anymore after that fight. I whispered softly as I lowered my lips to his and kissed him gently. Shifting his head slightly, his deep blue eyes rested upon mine as a small smile crossed his battered face. Thank you, my dearest wife. I love you always, came his word as he closed his eyes and rested back to sleep. I spent the rest of the night watching over them as I sat by the fire. I lived in fear that Ariakas would send more of his dark knights or have his draconians patrol the skies looking for us, so I did my best to keep the fire small, as well as keep a bucket of sand near in case I had to douse the fire quickly. But to my surprise, the remaining of the night was spent quiet with no signs of Ariakas' knights or his draconians. So I sat and waited for the night to pass by so we could finish making our way to the Black Mountains. It was during that time Dalamar finally awakened from his unconsciousness and started resting peacefully. The sky was setting off tones of yellow and orange as the sun started rising above the horizon. I slowly rose from my place by the now doused fire and walked over to where Link was resting and rustled him awake. I greeted him with a gentle kiss to the lips and a few soft words before giving him some herbs to help him feel better. After I was sure he was fine, I went to wake Dalamar. Slowly, the snowy griffin rose to his clawed feet. His crystal eyes glistened under the sunlight as he looked me over.
Phrasing.
I handed him some of my healing herbs, then proceeded to pack the blanket towels and cooking supplies back on the horses. Wait, the horses survived that? I thought you abandoned... You know what? I don't care. With a nod, Dalamar walked forward. After I was finished, I faced my two companions. I think if you are both well enough to travel, then we should start making our way to the Black Mountains. With a nod, Dalamar walked forward. I agree, Jenna. I'm well enough to travel, but what about you, Link? The griffin inquired. Link just nodded in response. Well, if we are ready, then we should move out, I returned as I mounted my mare. After Link mounted his stallion and got situated, we moved out. Making our way out to the canyon, we were hiding back out the barren rocky path to the Black Mountains. Most of the morning was spent quiet while we ate dried meat and cheese for breakfast. I rode behind Link as he followed the path that Dalamar had laid out. The barren trails that we followed soon turned into a vast, desolate area of rolling hills and dried grass, and in the distance appeared the silhouette of the Black Mountains. We came to a stop just at the foot of the small rocky hill, the warm breeze rustling the hair on our heads and swished the manes off our horses. This is the home of my people, the Black Mountains. We should reach there by nightfall, Dalamar said as the feathers around his neck ruffled. His tufted ears twitched in anticipation as his eyes rested towards his home. As long as we don't stop to rest, we should hopefully be able to cross this area without any threat of draconians dropping in on us. With a look skyward, my body shuddered as the thought of those blue dragons. Yeah, I sure hope we don't encounter any more of them, I whispered to myself. Well, I think we should move out and make a faster pace. Let's say at half gallop, I suggested, my eyes resting towards the dark shadow in the distance. Do you both think you're up to it? I questioned Link and Dalamar as I pulled back on the reins, causing my mare to dance in anxiety.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
I agree, Jenna. Being out here in the open, we will be like sitting ducks should any draconians come patrolling the area. I wouldn't even doubt it if they are looking at us right now. Dalamar looked skyward. His nostrils flared as his face filled with concern. It would be wise if we stayed at least one step ahead of them, preventing them from ever catching up to us. Link and I just stared at the worried griffin, our horses dancing in anxiety as if they're worried about something.
Get on with it.
Yes, get on with it!
Dalamar, the horses are acting worried. They just keep dancing as if they're afraid or something, Link said as he pulled back on the reins, then patted his stallion on the neck to calm it. Horses can sense dragons a mile away, Dalamar replied, worried. I think we should get moving now. It's too dangerous to remain here any longer. I watched as Dalamar started off at a mid-run, his talons digging into the dirt, causing small clouds of dust to rise in his wake. I glanced over at Link as he nodded. With that, I booted my horse in the legs, "Stop doing that!" and followed behind Link at half gallop. The dryness of the plains caused my throat to dry out and sand to cake my skin as it kicked up from behind the hooves of Link's horse. But as I pushed onward, the outline of the Black Mountains soon giving way to the images of rocky cliffs and small cave openings along the mountains. The black rock of the mountain shimmered against the sunlight as it showed 1,000 diamonds. Its immense beauty caused me to stare in awe. And that, my readers, is where we're going to have to call it. Next time, we'll be spending more time in Griffinstone. I'm sorry, I mean the Black Mountains. Yeah, that's what it's called. And see just how untrue most of the things we've already established about the Griffins really is.